Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Deplorable Nation. I'm your host, Deplorable Janet, and today I have one of my very favorite people as a returning guest. And boy, do we have some things to discuss today. This is called Faithfulness Over Feelings, and you will find out why shortly. So, welcome back, Mr. Brandon. How are you?
Doing all right. Apologies if I go in and out, folks. We're having a little bit of a windage, and if we stay on the line, cool. If not, it's all good.
If not, we'll have to just try it again. And
That's
you
true.
know
That's
what?
true.
It may be interference from the dark one because he doesn't want us talking about this today. That's entirely possible
That is true.
because this is not just a problem in your life. I feel like this is a problem in anybody's life that chooses to spread the gospel. So, you know, we're going to get into that today. So, I shall let you start us off on the rabbit hole that we're going to be in today.
First and foremost, I just want to establish from the get-go, for if that person is listening or anybody, this is not coming on Janet's show and always doing, oh, poor me, the world is horrible. This is not a slanderous attack on the individual I'm going to be expounding upon. And thirdly, this is not gossip. What I
Hmm.
am doing is trying to relay, just as Paul did,
Hmm.
this is not acceptable in the body of Christ.
Hmm.
And I'm going to outline, again, as I explained to Janet, I vet a lot of stuff. I process a lot of stuff. I pray about a lot of this stuff before I come to any conclusions, before I say anything. And the
Hmm.
biggest thing that I've learned is from our past shows, don't stay quiet, confront. So,
Hmm.
that being established, there is an individual who we're going to call Angelica. And we were forming a very close bond via the internet. And what a lot of people do not know, this individual was the biggest patronage of keeping the ministry going.
Hmm.
I'm not even going to expound about all the times, but if anybody has watched past shows, I have said countless times, my friend in Australia, this person who has given me the blah, 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 blah. She noted one time during a show, as I was saying before, that I was breathing cold air. And she said, "What's with that?" And I said, "I am keeping the heat low so I can continue to let the show keep on going." To which her and her husband sent me another generous donation. Little things like this that people have no idea. When I say I am literally funded by you, I mean every dime is funded by you. I don't have money for plane fare. I don't have money for vacation. I don't go on vacation. I would love to. Don't.
We
I
don't
don't have.
either. So there you go.
Yes, because it's ministry.
Have never.
And
No.
and again, I have put my money where my mouth is. And this is another thing with just all women in general. I'm just going to throw this in here in a very broad thing. A lot of times when people are reading my inscriptions, they're thinking I am implying them, or you're being rude, or you should be nice to the T supporters that voted. No, because that's what Paul did. We call out what's
Hmm.
wrong in this church. We call
Hmm.
things out by name. I'm being respectful. I'm not going to use the name because that's not the
Right.
important thing here. It's the matter entailed.
The behavior.
Right. And just
Hmm.
as with Paul, if you look at what 40-60% of the New Testament, it's a reprimand letter of get your stuff together. This is what's doctrinal, and what you're doing over there needs to be addressed. And
Hmm.
other times it is saying praises of thank you for helping this ministry go on. And that's
Hmm.
what I often say with my donations. Thank you. This is Paul's Tent Maker Fund. You're helping me go on another day.
Hmm.
So with this individual, who is the biggest supporter, they've seen me do shows with people who are not Christian before.
Hmm.
And one convert, I went on his show. He was formerly of the LGBTQ community.
Hmm.
Because I was patient with him, he dug in, and now I call him my Timothy. He has literally done more than in getting rid of things in his life
Right.
for the faith than I've seen with people for 20 years that are
That
it,
claim to be
Christian.
devout followers,
Yes.
but it's kind of like the story, the speck in your eye,
Yes,
trying to
and I've
get the
had
speck out of your eye when you have a log in your own.
yes,
Mhm.
and I've
Yeah.
had people, they were DMing me, why are you talking with a gay guy? Blah, 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 blah. You should have known it. And I'm like, Jesus hung out with the publicans and sinners. I am not endorsing or
100%.
condoning a lifestyle just by sitting and having a conversation. And because I took that time to invest, he came to Christ.
100%, and that is what ministry is about, that is what sharing the gospel is about, because the people who need saving are the people who do not have Christ in their life, right?
Absolutely.
Because the people, I'm sorry to say this, and this is probably going to upset a whole lot of people, but people in the church world or organized religion world are the first people to judge others. They're the
Yes.
first people to throw stones, and they cannot see that their righteous indignation is the reason why people turn away from belief in God in the first place. It is because of
Self-righteous
the
indignation.
hypocrisy.
Yes, that
Mhm.
the good important to add self because we are supposed to have righteous indignation, but it's to hate the things that God hates. But we're
Right,
supposed to, again, when judging,
right.
we're supposed to give them a couple of shots, and we get the whole thing, like approach them first in private, then bring a brother. At a
Mhm.
certain point, as Paul was constantly saying, block them, set them apart from you guys because they're not in
Right.
the faith; they are a tear. This is something hard to hear.
Mhm.
So with that individual, God reaped rewards with that because of the interaction. Another
Right.
individual used to be big into politics. I remember watching the show, and you can still watch back. I don't, again, don't need to say his name, but he's staring at it, and I'm seeing the draw dropping, going,
Oh
"Politics is
my
so
gosh.
sinful. What's wrong with me?" And
Mhm.
he is again always in the show, very enthusiastic. Someone was bashing him because he was wearing a sleeveless tang, and they were
Mhm.
going on about his tattoos, and says, "I can't watch this because of his tattoos." And I'm like, if you're a self-righteous Pharisee, you listen to the man. I'm not talking about that. I want to know what's in here because that's what God likes. So when it comes to this particular individual, it's very grievous because unlike yourself, I've kept a lot of my upbringing reserved only for certain people.
Right.
And I would tell this person even a little bit more than what I expounded upon in the show. And we're building a little bit of a bond. And so I do one show with a particular individual who is female. And because of the field of ministry she does, that she doesn't believe that is in a Christian's life, it's not in the Bible, she got upset. And I was thinking to myself, well, you say to be my number one supporter. You've seen me be on another show, and I was condemning the gentleman on there about Kabbalah tarot cards. Christians are
Mhm.
supposed to be set apart from such things. You didn't have a problem with that. You've seen me with Nick Galvier. He's
Mhm.
always smoking a little doobie thing once in a while when he's doing the show. Didn't
Right.
have a problem there. But the minute I was on a show with another woman around my age, and I gave the compliment that I love having intellectual conversations,
Right. Absolutely.
I think without maybe she realizes it, maybe she doesn't, but I think what happened is the spark of jealousy occurred.
Right.
So then there started happening after this the silent treatment. And
Right.
after about a day and a half, I was sending, we'd send reels to each other and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, what's going on? And I'm over here like, what did I do? So I'm like trying to reach out. And at a certain point, I got a little upset. And so I sent 4 voicemails, got a little bit strong worded. but but in my defense, I said, listen, I am dealing with losing a home or place to
Mhm.
live. I'm dealing with the stress of finances.
Mhm.
Says I have an issue with my car that I need to get repaired. And again, I go there list about 5 or 6 things. I says I really do not have time for mental mind games with somebody that's very close to me. I said if you have a problem, I would prefer that you just come and talk to me. And I told you you're one of 2 people that I give authority. If you want to call out my BS, I give you permission to do that.
Mhm.
But alas, well, no, I'm not. I've just been busy. okay, I've seen you online while I'm on.
Right, right. I
You're
love that
trying to,
excuse, right?
you're
People
doing
don't
a
realize that you can see their
little
bubble,
green
that
dot,
they're active.
which sometimes for me it's because I'm creating a post, and then sometimes
Right.
I'd see, and again, even with this person, I was like, okay, you just did a post. Again, so time goes on a little bit, and she of course obviously is upset with some of the stuff I said, and I apologized. Eventually, after some time, I called and I said, I'm explaining. I think one of the reasons I really don't like it when people do the silent treatment is because that is reflecting on my childhood. Just put him in the corner. He's not important.
100%. You
And
and I are
especially,
the same in that. Yep,
yes.
absolutely.
And as somebody who already has a really hard time vetting and very reserved about who I let into my inner circle, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
I probably have about 4 or 5 tops, if that, if that. And all the rest are acquaintances. But if I let you in and I expound and I share all this stuff and you get hurt, I'm going to get hurt. Why?
Right.
Because I have let you in. So therefore, if you're hurt, I want to know why you're hurt. So
You're
I
right, and
offered
you were brave enough to have the vulnerability with somebody in the first place
that I've never even met.
to share things, right? And, like some people, it's very hard for them to understand how you could be very close to somebody you met online.
Hmm.
I will tell you, every one of my friends I have met online. I met my husband online,
Kudos.
because you don't have that face-to-face interaction, which I think helps in a way, even though I'm not a fan of tech, but I think it helps in a way for you to be vulnerable when you're not facing that person. You
Yes.
can't see their facial expressions, whatever. You get closer, and literally my best friends in the entire world, Heidi,
Yes.
Ellie, Tamara, all the people, Angel from Paranoia Radio, Bradley, all of those people became close people in my life because I was able to form a relationship online with them first.
Yes. And that was the
Happens.
thing is apparently she was following me for a little bit of while. And again, I got so many people following me. I don't pay
Mhm.
attention again. So we
Right,
grew over
right.
time. We've had calls, and I then said, okay, if you don't agree with her biblical outlook or her ministry and stuff like that, would you like to debate her? And again, I reached out to the other individual first, and they were saying, yeah, I'm totally game. Let's go.
Mhm.
And again, not out of hostility. No, again, if we have a
It's
disagreement,
for an intelligent discussion between
correct.
2 consenting
And
adults.
again, I'm in the middle. I love you. Not to mention, you're one of the biggest supporters. So of course I'm willing to let you have a shot at actually stand your ground.
Right.
And she said no. And besides, I prefer you actually reach out to me before you offer that to her. Okay. So then I said, you know what?
Another, kind
Yeah, a
of
little.
tinge of jealousy. Yeah.
So then I
Mhm,
offered this. I said, okay. I guess I was talking with the other individual, and they said maybe again because I want to understand. I want to make amends. So I asked the other individual, said, well, maybe it is jealousy. So, blah, blah, blah. So thinking this, I said, okay, I will offer her a chance just to come on the show and talk about anything that's on her heart, just to, whatever. Because again, I will talk to the average Joe. I'm not here for sensationalist, big guests, whatever. I don't care about all that.
same,
No,
right.
thank you. Not really interested. Okay. So I'm trying. And then again, I had this individual on a second time after we had a phone call. And she was saying, I couldn't believe you said that stuff about me or you thought that stuff. I'm like, yes, of course I think that because after, a couple days of silent treatment, what am I supposed to think? I'm
Mhm,
like, I'm praying to God. I'm like, what's going on? If I don't have communication, how am I supposed to know what's going on across all of USA, across the
100%.
Pacific, on another freaking continent? I don't know. I want to know.
Well, and let
And
me throw this in there, that goes for any kind of relationship, whether it's with your spouse, your
mm,
kids, or whatever. How in the world do you expect someone to know why you're upset, why your feelings are hurt, et cetera, if you don't tell them? because people are not mind readers. However,
Yes.
we are so fragile and frail as a society. We're weak minded for the most part, not everybody, mind you. Um, but we get our feelings hurt if somebody tells us the truth. We say we want it, but then when somebody is brutally honest with you, you don't like it. You get your feelings hurt. I deal with that literally in my personal life all the time. And here's the
Mhm.
thing about me. What you see is what you get. I am the most real, genuine person you will ever meet, but I will not sugarcoat to spare your feelings. And
Mhm.
I will always tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear, not
Right.
what's going to placate your feelings and make you feel comfortable. Life is going to make you feel uncomfortable, and that is part of our job being in ministry or sharing the gospel with people.
Yes. Yes. And I was talking with my buddy. I said it's like controversial cockroaches.
Mhm.
And then he said, "Okay, you willing to stand up for, put tongue to steel or see where your words stand?" And it's like, "Oh no!" It's like,
Exactly.
it's like, okay,
That would have made a perfect cartoon reel right then.
yeah. Did you know? It's not going to happen. And so again, I had this individual on a second time, and it wasn't even in the field of her expertise study that she has the beef with.
Mhm,
Again, I just found out on my Patreon. The next day, I decided to take away the Patreon support. Messaged me, looked at the
mm,
message of again another reel that I sent her. Again, trying to make amends. And for me, oh yeah, and then she also did a post about 18 slides, all talking about the stuff that she's into ministry wise. I says so she keeps saying she's not ticked off, and then she does 18 slides on this,
mhm,
specifically knowing that she only has like 3, 4 followers, knowing that I would see this. I did see
mhm.
it, and I was over here going, you keep saying it's not, but then you're doing little things like this, and it's like a coping mechanism.
It's passive aggressive behavior.
Yes,
Mhm,
yes. And for me, if I may now to retract, I understand that I hurt her. I apologized. I explained again, as I said on the other show, I explained why I reacted the way I did. And
mhm.
I repented. I apologized. That was not right of me. But I also explained the psychology of what happened, and also a
Right,
little bit of what on your side made me get to that point. I don't
right,
like getting to that point. I rarely explode. But
right,
when it's somebody who's really close to me, it really hurts. So
right,
vice versa, we're
absolutely.
both hurting here. It's okay. We can move on if we're really friends. And so now back for me, I have offered again book recommendations. So they bought these books and they gave it to somebody that's semi their pastor friend guy, and they were doing a plumbing job for the guy. And then her husband, I'm not going to say his name, he went over and he recommended the book to the guy. The guy started applying the things in his book at his local church, and eventually the church ousted him
Mhm.
because you weren't doing the things that we want you to do, because this
Right,
book is meant to
100%.
transformational. And
Right.
they were again throwing that towards me. She'd talk about it me with her hairdresser, and apparently the hairdresser had heard about me before, and I was over here like, oh, we're in Australia, wow. But you follow, so there's a little bit of this. Not only was what you were putting into the ministry starting to reach other people,
Mhm.
now because you're soured of me have, again, you have hosts, do you agree with every single one that's on?
No,
No.
no, absolutely
1000%.
not, no.
I'm literally, if you look at my stuff, I maybe have 6 to 8 guests that I've interviewed, or and
Right,
I'm just trying to venture out, broaden my
right.
content. It's not my main cup of tea, but it's something like, okay, I got to shake it up because I always do the same thing with presentations. So the fact is, why is this specific one that much of an irritant for you? And I asked, I said, it has to be that, because I've had other talks with folks you didn't have a problem with.
Mhm,
I do a talk with this particular person, and the biggest thing is withholding the funds.
mhm.
That's not the main thing. Again, money doesn't motivate me.
Right.
However, in the ministerial sense, reaching people, and again, I get DMs all the time. It's reaching people, but because now taking this and making it personal, You're
Mhm.
now affecting, whether people realize it or not, 1,000 people. That's almost the size of a mega church. Granted, digital, and I'm shadow banned, but it's still reaching people. It's going across borders. It's not
Right.
about feelings. It's about the ministry. It's not about me. It's about the people that are being hurt,
Right.
regardless of you being hurt about something with me.
Right. And here's the thing. So, being that there's you and this other person in
Hmm.
this, relationship, and you saw what you did as wrong, you
Yes.
apologized, you atoned for it. You're like, "Let me explain to you why that quote triggered me," right?
Hmm.
Why it made me have the reaction that I did. This is what I grew up with. This is what I'm used to.
Yep.
These are the things that bring up traumas, whatever. So with that side, with her side of the equation, not even acknowledging number 1 that she was upset, she's
Yes.
lying, right? Because you had a physical response, an emotional response that came up to something that transpired between the 2 of you or on your show, something that
Right.
transpired that made her feel a certain way, that made her pull back from the relationship, that made her have jealousy, anger, whatever the emotions were that she was going through, but she still won't confess to having those emotions, but in turn turns around passively aggressively, let me make this post about, and I can see like the emotion and the face behind it while she's making it, right? And even if she didn't have that emotion or face while she's making this post, something in her subconscious is still guiding her to do this post out of hurt or pain or whatever.
Right. It's like a
But
coping
you but
mechanism. Yeah.
she's not being vulnerable enough with herself to be
Yes.
like, "Oh my gosh, this made me feel a certain
How
way."
how am I hurting you? And again, I'm just not 100% at the husband, but the husband, you're the main guy working, and then she will facilitate sending the funds. But here's the thing, and as with a lot of stuff that I personally go through, I'm applying it in the broad sense because this is
Right.
relatable stuff that we talk
Same, we
about.
both do. Right, same.
If your wife is going through emotions and you've been together, let's say 30, 40, 25 years, I really, they have 3 sons. If your wife is suddenly having an angst against an online guy, despite almost a year and a half, maybe 2 years of friendship, over one individual,
Mhm.
and you're believing all that she's saying, despite all the other shows, all the other content that you've listened to, and all the stuff that I've told you personally, if you're not helping her process what she's going through
Or you
emotionally,
can't see
internally,
what she's going through?
right, or understand there's a rift with a really good friend, and I would hope to say that I wear my heart on my sleeve
Mhm.
in a sense
Same.
that you can be transparent. So one, husbands, don't be like King Ahab and let Jezebel dictate how the kingdoms run based on a
Right,
whim.
right,
Don't be like Adam and point the Adamic excuse. It was the woman though gave us me. Stand up. Be the intermediator. Call me. If you want to yell at me, fine. At least
right.
someone's talking to me. But the problem is, I'm hearing silence. Again,
Mhm,
where's my advocate on my side?
mhm,
Are you not listening to my side before we just jump to this conclusion?
mhm.
And here's another thing, she's never written a comment on any of my videos, but she wrote one for that. And then she said, like, the host or and I'm like, and again, I let her know in a voicemail. The host, like, we're friends. Why you're writing it from like a third party,
Right, like,
whatever?
you
And she
don't know me now.
wrote all her, yes. It's like you're distancing yourself with that comment. And I said, this is the first comment you ever write, and this is how you're going to start it.
Mhm.
I felt very hurt by that,
Right.
and I've told her before. There's a kid at my church, and every time he was writing a comment on my stuff, it was a joke, but it was very caustic in the comment the way it came across. And it wasn't just like reading this, it's like, you've never read anything, but when you do, that's what you got.
Right.
So she already knows that when you do write a comment, and again, if you do have a beef, how come you can't talk to me and consult me directly behind the scenes of these are my highlights of what I thought? Have a call, instigate the call. But the fact that you felt prompted on that particular topic and this particular guest to write
Mhm.
a comment, it, you know what I'm saying? And in a distant sense. So, in essence, what I'm trying to bring about, husbands, as we said before, we're supposed to have a little bit of a headship in the
Right.
family. And if your
Absolutely.
wife is grieving, it's good to help either console her or confront the person that's hurting her.
Mhm.
And if it is me, that's again, it's not okay, but I'm saying it's okay to confront me because I
Right.
would respect you as another man because we're supposed to have standards for how we're supposed to treat women, right?
Right.
So if I am doing that, by all means, good sir, I would encourage and implore you, please do.
Mhm.
Because if my character does not speak for itself of things that I've gotten rid of to do
Right.
ministry, I put my money where my mouth is.
Right.
So
100%.
I respect somebody who's funding me, especially to have
Mhm.
a say. You've kind of earned your your seat at the table.
Mhm.
And again, it's not from oh you're buying shares. It's no, it's like I you guys have helped so many people. And now because you're upset about one individual guest that I've had on, people are suffering in the consequence. I'm barely getting by now.
Well, and here's the thing. I
Uh,
don't know what the guest on the show said that triggered her so much, but
mm,
this is what I love about ministry, about sharing the gospel, about being a human being in general, right?
right,
We
right.
can literally both read the exact same scripture. It can mean one thing to you, and it can mean something completely different to me, right?
Mhm.
It will hit you in your subconscious, your memories, whatever. It will hit both of us very differently.
Yes.
We're designed that way. God made us that way so that we could have intelligent discussion. Why do you believe the things that you do in your
Yes.
ministry? Why do I believe the things that I do in my ministry? And here's the great thing about ministry: we are not all going about it the same way. We're not all teaching the same thing. Mine is more people focused, love focused,
Mhm.
you know, helping to people to heal, things of that nature. Yours is very information based, yours is very gospel based.
Yeah.
Everybody approaches it very differently with what they're sharing. So, what is it about what this woman said that triggered her so much to have that kind of emotional response? To
Mhm.
me, it makes me feel like, just because coming from the field that I'm in and what I've done for so long, that it is some deep rooted trauma that she has not dealt with that brought up some subconscious reaction or response to what was being said.
That's just weird. I
100,000%.
was just watching a Bonanza episode. Um,
I love Bonanza.
so do I.
They don't make shows like that anymore. Mm-mm,
It
no.
was the episode. I'm not sure if you remember the episode. The girl that was the pyromaniac, and she started burning down a lot of Virginia City.
Okay.
So that was again season 12, I think episode the first episode of the season. Um, again, I'm watching it on pirated YouTube, so shh.
Mhm.
But
Don't tell.
yes. So I was
Sorry,
watching it.
CIA Bob, you didn't hear a word he just said. Okay.
Yeah, try to have a heart, man. There's so much crap on TV.
Right.
Um, but anyways, what they were showing is that this young lady, how she became this pyromaniac, it became a mental trauma for her to start these fires. It was a
Mhm,
coping mechanism because when she was a child, her father was drinking wine. She brought some food over to him. She accidentally nudged his little wine vase, whatever it was,
mhm.
fell on the table. So he starts unbuckling his belt, and as he flapped it out, he nicked the lamp. The lamp fell over, and it started fire on the table. And it's
Mhm.
showing slow motion. As a child, she saw the fear on her father's face that the fire was scaring him, and she was terrified of her father. So what happened was a bit of a transference of fire
Right.
scares dad, and therefore it just spared me from getting a beating.
Right.
So it became kind of like a high and an adrenaline to cope with the trauma whenever she
Right.
was bored or whenever she was having a little bit of a lull. Now she was trying to plug it by getting married and stuff in the show, but didn't go through. But because she was getting frustrated of the wedding jitters, she kept starting a fire, kept doing this. So for
Mhm.
me, I was going, wow, this is actually really deep for a Bonanza episode. But
Mhm.
for me, as you just said, that's immediately. I don't think that's a coincidence. That's how the Holy Spirit works. You,
100%.
you just brought up something that I'm like, yeah, this has to be something else and not me. And again, coming from the background that I do, coming from the personality that I have, I overthink it constantly when somebody writes in the me comment or this comment,
Mhm.
and I'm thinking to myself, am I this? Think, 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 think. No. When I look at your profile, do you post anything like me? No. Is
Mhm.
your profile set on private? Yes. Is
Mhm.
it when I do look on it, is it posting all like do you post one verse a day? No. So when I
Mhm.
write something controversial and you read the inscription, you see yourself in it or you think you should defend it. It's not judging. If Paul wrote a letter to the modern church, imagine if I was doing that.
Right.
Yeah, again, people are emotionally responding
Mhm.
and translating what they see and what they perceive, read, or whatever,
Right.
and they're subconsciously reacting with emotion
100%.
and not letting the Holy Spirit vet and filter where I'm coming from. And again,
Right.
I'm just laying that all out before I throw it back to you.
Hence discernment,
Yeah,
is a
yes,
necessary part of our world because, whatever trauma it was, and some people don't remember their traumas. They've experienced them, they don't remember them, so they store them away unconsciously, and so, when we have an interaction with somebody says something that triggers us, upsets us, whatever word you wanna use,
hmm hmm
um, we immediately have an emotion attached to that comes up, and you could be like, "Where the hell did that come from? Like, why do I feel that way?" It's
right,
something
right,
subconsciously that has been programmed in there from whatever happened in the past that will make recurring traumas or emotional responses come up based around that. So if it's a jealousy issue,
mm,
was it a jealousy issue from her past? Something that happened was she jealous of a sibling? Was she jealous of, whatever? Like mine was jealousy with my siblings because my parents made it very clear I was not their favorite,
oh,
and it's like this, like, these are our favorite and you're the throwaway kid,
right,
right? And
right,
so for a long time, I couldn't understand, like, why my relationships were so bad, why
mm,
I had issues with jealousy and stuff, and it's because of the way that I was raised, and it wasn't until much later where I'm like, "Oh, okay. Thanks.
ding,
Thanks for opening up that whole thing, God, because you just let
mm,
out like all the moths from my attic storage, right? And it's like all these things came flying out, and I'm like, oh, you just completely like cleared up and clarified for me. And now I have the discernment. If I have an emotion come up with something I haven't dealt with before that I don't remember or whatever, like, I have the discernment now to be like, "Okay, so is this, like, God telling me something? Is this Satan trying to mess with
yes,
me? Like,
yes,
what is it? And why did this emotion come up from what you said? Why is that my response?" So I
hmm
have to sit down and evaluate that as to why I had that immediate reaction to something.
and that's the wise way is filter it through the Holy
Well,
Spirit. How should I
and
respond, or why am I feeling this angst? And the Psalms and
100%.
Proverbs are great resources of God, I'm vetting my soul, my heart to you. I'm lamenting my feelings. Sometimes I'm calling you out, but not
Mhm.
in a way that I'm denouncing your greatness. It's just I want to understand. Um, that
100%.
that's proper.
And, he has a guide and a plan for each one of us, right?
Mhm,
And so we're so like narcissistic and ego driven that it's like things aren't working out to the way that we think it should and the way that we want things to work out. So we
mm,
get like those little like, oh, why the heck do I got to go through this? Or why is so and so acting like that? Why didn't I get this promotion? Why? Like little
right.
rotten, spoiled babies when we cannot possibly fathom the perfection that is in his plan for us. And
Mhm,
so, whatever triggered this emotional response for your friend from this other lady's ministry, is that something that she's going to emotionally be able to process and deal with that she can turn around and use in her life, as screwed up
right.
as that is? We go through what we have to go through in life: traumas, accidents, injuries, illnesses, breakups, devastating fires, earthquakes, floods, all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
so that we can use what we have gone through to be able to minister in a
Yes.
different way than what we could ever fathom.
Yes.
I have to be broken and damaged multiple times to be able to use that as a strength and a warrior for God
Yes.
to help somebody else.
And that was
Let
my
me let
takeaway.
me let me rephrase that. Damaged, broken, and then reformed and reborn. How about
Yeah,
that?
reforged for his
Yeah.
purpose. And that was my takeaway from my hiatus from humanity. I kind of was thinking, I'm like, well, how would I sum this up? And I think I came with self pity can be one of the greatest forms of pride.
Mhm. Absolutely.
And I think about that all the time now because it's like, well, I'm over here sitting like, again, sometimes it's right just to process it, but sometimes there comes a point where it's like, okay, are you done lamenting? Are you
But
done?
exactly.
What
And
can you
and you
do?
get people get stuck, and that's the beautiful thing about ministry, because that point alone right there will
Mm,
resonate with so many people, because people get stuck under this like umbrella label, right?
mm,
And it's like, why me? All these bad things always happen to me. Why are all these things going wrong? Why did so and so break up with me? Why do my friends not want to talk to me? Why? My situation's awful. And it's like this protective covering, right? Of the why poor pitiful me.
yeah.
And it's very narcissistic. Like I said, we're very egocentric and very egotistical driven. And it's like we can't think about other people because we can't stop thinking about ourselves.
Yes. Yes. And that was immediately what was hitting me was going,
Mhm.
well, I've over here been wallowing. There's other people that need me. There's other people. And again, this is another reason why I really like junior church because it was like that's one again, everyone's like, no, no. When I look at junior churches, I still like hearing the stories in a dumbed down form, quote unquote, because sometimes
Mhm.
it's the simple little parable is something that resonates with you. It's just like this boy.
100%. Yep.
And this is why I'll still listen to, like, Adventures in Odyssey and stuff like that. I'm not sure if you know what that is, but it's a Christian program, and it's
Mhm.
like, yeah, God, for me, I still sometimes sit there as I'm driving and I'm hearing this program will play in the background. It's like 30 minutes, kid show, but I'm just going, wow, that message was really good. And I'm listening
Mhm.
to people processing their scenarios, their adventures, their emotions, stuff like that. Sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's really sad, but sometimes there's like, wow, and they brought up this Bible verse, makes me want to dig into the Bible. This is the beauty, as you said, of ministry, is that you
Mhm.
can appreciate the simplicity of how you get the message. So when you
100%.
try to be an adult
And
and this
adulting
person,
is hard.
I'm gonna do
Requires
that
some
work. I'll
work.
admit it. I'll admit it. Yeah. But I like having a playful side. I also like, you know what? I can be transparent. And again, a lot of the stuff I used to keep so much in, and I really like getting it out on this kind of show. Again, it's not
100%.
one of the top most viewed shows.
Mhm,
Again, for the few followers who do, thank you for listening. But
mhm,
it's getting it out there where if you want to go and check, oh, you're a Mason, you're this. No, I'm telling you, this is my journey. This is my
mhm,
story. This is what goes on behind the scenes that you may not know about.
mhm.
But I do love you. And I'm channeling, again, I'm not saying an energy vibe and vibrations for everybody who's going to freak out, but I'm channeling what I went through and I'm putting it to good. I'm putting it to the ministry. I'm putting in my heart, soul, and my mind that God's given me to articulate and put something out there for somebody else. So when somebody who's very dear decides to cause a rift based on
Right.
emotions, it's
Mhm.
something that irks me because as the ecclesia, it is not our place to question the mind of God. Questioning the
Correct.
mind of God is starting to tap into blasphemy. So maybe we do not understand every single person in the body of Christ. Some people have visions. Other people go through something else, and this is how
Mhm.
they start their ministry. Whether it's in the Bible or not, people still suffer in a form, whether it's demon possessed, because again, they're demon possessed. What was their problem? Sometimes we don't know, and it's curtailed specifically for that particular person that goes through that.
Right,
But this is,
100%.
I
To
have
make them
knowledge,
learn. It's a
right?
learning experience if they
And
choose to
to
be
accept.
receptive and open. Mhm,
Right. And whether or not, no, whether they're a false prophet or this, as I told this lady, I said, I prayed about that show prior with any show that if this doesn't feel right, I'm not going to post early or let your spirit be in this conversation and lay it upon me if there's I should red flag, ding ding ding.
mhm.
And so many people really enjoyed that episode. It's probably my top 3 if you're
Mhm,
going by, most popular viewed. So many positive comments. Probably my most liked, to be absolutely honest.
mhm.
And it's not for reasons that, again, I don't care about all. I enjoyed the conversation
Right,
because we were talking about ministry. Bible
right,
verses were being thrown back and forth. Personal experiences were being
right.
applied to the conversation. It was edifying to the body, which is, again, if you just have a
Mhm.
liver, it's stupid. You need the
Right,
intestinal tract. You need the urinal canal to let
right.
things out once it's done. Like, there's a reason we all have different gifts because if we all had all of those, we would be God. We're
Right.
not. So we appreciate an aspect and a piece of God when we come together as the body. So if something is hurt, again, if your body's telling you something hurt, that means something's wrong. So
Mhm,
whether, again, emotionally, I can feel that there's something wrong. I want to help apply a healing of some sort, whatever was required, to
mhm.
fix that area of the body, and the body's refusing it. Now, here's the thing.
Well, and perfect thing for that. This is my literal favorite verse in the Bible. I have a lot of favorites, but this is my all-time favorite. It's
Yeah.
2 Timothy 1, verse 7. For God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power and love and self-control.
Yes.
And so, what do people struggle with literally all the time? Mental issues
Mm,
and being fear-based and all of those things, which makes the rest of your body sick. And I do want to throw this out there because I am a believer in positive energy and vibration because your body is made mostly of water.
mm,
And so cymatics plays a very important role. The things that we've been told about our body for decades, like the heart is a pump, that is a lie. It is actually a power vortex in your body. If you unfold the heart, it's like a cylinder. Okay. And so for us, especially with something that gets us emotionally, right?
mm,
A trauma causes these emotions like not feeling safe, not being unwanted, like all of these things, right? We store that at a cellular level.
mhm,
And so emotion And vibration does play a role, because if we are constantly in a state of negativity and we're constantly speaking on, I'm such a piece of shit, I can't do anything right, whatever, and you're affirming to yourself how garbage of a human being you are, right? Which is completely opposite of what God intended, because God made you a perfect being.
Hmm.
He made you in his image, right? And so we store all of that stuff cellularly, which makes our body deteriorate, because we are full of water,
Hmm.
and water and cymatics play a very big role on shapes and structures, which in turns affects our cells and
Yes.
stuff like that. And so, like you were saying, you have to have all of these parts to be able to make a whole, right?
Hmm.
And so the gospel is all of these parts that make a whole. And when you're depressed, there's verses for that.
Yes.
If you're dealing with jealousy issues, there's a lot of verses for that can give you like guidance and stuff like that. If you're lost about ministry and how to go about ministry, or you think your ministry is better than somebody else's ministry, again judging, um there's verses for everything in the Bible there.
Yes.
And that's why I said, like,
Examples.
the way that people read this same exact verse is based on how we subconsciously store things. And that's why I said at the beginning of the show, we will process the exact same verse very differently because of what's stored in here.
Right. And just to cover for you, Jen is not promoting New Ageism. Just
No,
throwing out
no.
what she is implying, though, because again, you can't tell me that the
This
negative.
is from a medical standpoint, not
Yes.
not a woo-woo-y
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah,
But there's the thing with them tapping into the 5G and then messing with the sound waves and stuff. And again,
yeah.
don't if you don't believe me, then you really don't know what 2020 was all about, and I'm just going to leave it there.
Right.
But
Absolutely.
again, when you are letting your body deteriorate, people die of broken hearts. This is a real thing. Again,
100%.
medically confirmed. But when
100%.
you let yourself become teared down inside, what does that
Mhm.
open you up to?
Satan.
There's a broken body, I can fix it. Or you look for energy, and as opposed to saying, God, I feel broken. Could you please help remold me? Right?
Right.
This again, new ageism is gonna say, I'm gonna find it within and put it all together myself.
Yeah,
Whereas
no,
God saying,
we
let
cannot
me
do
in.
that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. God
And
saying, let me in. I will fix it. I will mend it. I will show you how to go through this.
and that is why, with our emotional responses and the things that we store in our body, the only way to get over that is to give your problems to God,
Yes.
because we are not the master creators. We didn't design ourselves. We don't understand even a portion, right, of the way that he set us up.
Yes.
And so, while we can do things to help, we cannot completely heal without him, because
Right.
it is all in the sanctification process. You react with jealousy repeatedly over situations. It's time to sit down and evaluate and be like, why am I feeling that way? Okay, God, show me.
Right.
Like,
Right.
give me the wisdom and the knowledge. Why is this upsetting me so much? And like he did for me, he totally blew the lid off. He threw dynamite in there and was like, here it is. And here is all the emotional vomit that is coming out. And I'd be like, oh, okay. Yeah. No, I get it now.
Right. Right.
Absolutely
It's
get
not
it.
easy. It's not easy. And that and when I say I was crying in the shower when I was praying, I was like, all right, God, I really don't want to forgive him. And again,
Hmm.
I said, but if that's what you want, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. And
Hmm.
it's again still hard for me.
Or I was
It's
going to
it's
say,
protective.
forgiveness is literally the hardest thing that we as human beings can do.
Yeah. By the way, what's the name of that book? think it's Louis B. Smead's Forgive and Forget. Phenomenal read. Just throwing that title out there because that was a book that really, wow, it really helped me process what I was going through.
Mhm.
But as I was saying before, um, when you don't know what's wrong with that part of the body,
Mhm.
you go where? To a doctor, right?
Mhm.
This person's going through this. This is
And
the
get
symptom.
magical pharmakia, right?
No, I mean,
Say
I mean the
mm,
good people. I mean the ones that
mhm.
genuinely care. You're saying, "Doc, these are the symptoms. This are the dents. What do you recommend? What's a little remedy? What's something I can do? Do you recommend they should go walking? Whatever, like something, again,
Mhm.
varying on the situation."
They're not gonna tell you that, they're gonna tell you drugs. Lots and lots of drugs,
Yes,
especially if it's depression, we're gonna give you at least 4 or 5 as a cocktail.
let's go
Mhm.
at 1700s, when they just cut you open and bleed you.
Right. I think you have snake venom in your blood, so we're gonna cut your arms open.
6 leeches, that'll
Bloodletting.
do it. Um, but the thing is, you go to a doctor, you go to a consultant, but most importantly, you vet it through the Bible,
Right,
right? And
absolutely.
again, this is what we're doing. We're having a consultation. You're hearing from your experience. I'm hearing from my experience. It's not
Mhm.
condemning. It's not shaming. I don't need to say your name. I'm talking about how it hurt me. I'm talking about how it hurt you. I'm
Right.
admitting that again, I know on air. It's on the record.
Mhm.
But the biggest thing is, as you said before, discernment. Now break that word down. Set apart. Cern, as in Cernonus. Cern, as in
Mhm.
666. Cernonus means horned one.
Mhm.
Ment, where we get the Latin for mental, of
Mhm.
the mind.
Right.
So what do we get? Set apart the horned one from your mind. And what did I just
Right.
say? If you are beating yourself up, who's going to
Yep.
fill that? Again, because
Yep.
you're thinking in your mind. And what did Satan say? I will ascend to be like the God Most High. He thinks he knows the mind of God. He can't. He's not creator God. He cannot create. He can replicate. He can mimic. He can mock. He can invert, but he cannot create. So again,
Correct.
setting apart the horned one from your mind, what are you doing? I don't want to think like him. I don't want that indwelling me. I want
Mhm.
the Holy Spirit. I want unity. I want to be part of the ecclesia, the body of Christ, despite the angst and disagreements that we have. And
Right.
as you said, plenty of verses in the Bible, but the main thing for me as a writer, there's many stories of relatability with characters. And when I sit
100%.
back and I understand the metaphors, I understand I'm trying to think about the time, the culture, and the phrases that are said. Now that I understand the occult, I'm reading, I'm like, whoa, you called them out hard.
Mhm.
But it's good. And I told this to another mentor. Says we might disagree, but we're gonna have to pull a Paul and Barnabas of how we go about the ministry. Because that is ultimate. Ministry first and
100%.
foremost, despite how you might disagree with my format or how I go about it. But he couldn't let that go. This is the thing, as you said before, in ministry, guys, it is toxic. It is draining. It
Mhm.
sucks. I hate it. Because this is what I have to deal with when I want to get connected with somebody.
Right.
I have to explain myself. I have to over explain myself, or I have to try to understand what's going on with you. As I said before, I had a list of things going on, still
Mhm.
do.
Well, and
But when
that's the thing though, and talks about that, right? Where people of prophecy, people of ministry are held to higher standards.
yes,
You are held above everyone else, right?
and not in
And
better than now, by the way,
no,
just
no, no.
clarifying again for
But
listeners.
in the point that people's judgment is cast upon you, you have
Yes,
to be a faithful servant at all times. You can't ever falter. You can't ever have doubts. You can't ever whatever. We are human beings,
right,
right?
right.
And so we will falter. And why is that? Because we are not completely sanctified yet. We are a work in progress.
Yes,
Right? And that's why I said earlier it's so important for you to ask God, like, why did this upset me so bad? I need the discernment so that I can change my behavior. And the next time that the same kind of situation comes up, I can respond to it differently.
right.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is sanctification. When you are growing in your knowledge and your emotional or physical
Maturity,
response
right?
to
Yeah,
things, that is definitely sanctification, because you're being changed by God into a different, better person with more responsible ways of responding.
Yes. And I was telling my buddy, I said, I think something that occurred is that when you're convicted, um, you're not really, again, I used to be huge into people pleaser. I don't feel
I am not.
any guilt right now. Well, no, I used to be. I used to be. I'm now at the point. I'm semi again. I want to, but I'm semi callous because every time I've opened up and said I'll be there, I'll listen, blah, blah," and when it
Mhm.
comes to vice versa, gone. Like so,
Same. Yep,
so
same. Mhm,
it's become a thing where it's like I really do care
mhm.
about people. I am
Deeply.
often misunderstood
Mhm.
and misinterpreted with how something goes out. Um, but here's
And
the
you
biggest thing
I
is
wanna I wanna say something,
sure.
because when initially, when I first met you, I was like, "Wow, he comes off, like, really conceited and stuff." But I could see, like, your pain, I could see you were struggling, and, you were going through something emotionally, and I was like, "You know what? This is a protection thing."
Mhm.
And people are misunderstanding because of things that are going on internally inside you. That has become, like, I wanna say kinda like my specialty, right?
Mhm.
Because I'll be, like, getting, expletives 5 ways from Sunday from a friend because I told them the truth about something, or something they didn't wanna hear, but they needed to hear. And then I'm like, "Okay, well, they're not, even though it's directed at me, it's not really directed at me. They're processing, because it's really hard for people, like I said before, when we hear the truth, because it means that your old beliefs have to die off for you to be able to hear truth."
Yes.
And I'm like, "Okay, they're processing, they're not really mad at me, they're processing emotions, whatever." And then later, people always come back and apologize. And I think, like I said, initially, and it was literally like within the first, I don't know, little bit, just minutes wise,
Doing an analysis.
I was like, "Oh, he is uber conceited." And then, like, the longer it went on and I'm watching your facial features and stuff like that, I'm like, "Oh, no, this dude is, he's had some stuff. He's in pain." And that's when I reached out to our mutual, friend that hooked us up in the first place, and
Yeah.
I'm like, "Dude, this is the impression that I'm getting. Tell me if I'm wrong. Something is definitely going on, like, emotionally, like, deep." And she's like, "You're not wrong at all." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm good." And now you and I, like, absolutely get each other,
Yes.
and I love that because, like, picking that up, like, broke that barrier down, and now we can have those beautiful conversations that before, like, was kind of like a defensive type thing, and now there's none of that.
Well, that's because I'm talking about it, and I'm laughing because a lot of people say, "Well, you kinda sound like narcissistic or whatever." I've heard this often, and
But
I'm
it's
trying
not. It's
right,
not.
right.
Yeah.
And I again, I think about, okay, so guess what? I'm not talking about it, and that's the irony is one minute they say, "You're a narcissist," next minute they're over here saying like, "Okay, you're telling me too much." It's like, "Well, which one do you want?"
Exactly.
'Cause
And
you
you
sound
and
cold-hearted.
we cannot ever please other people, right? Because I get stuff sideways all the time from people who are like, "I cannot believe that you shared those things about your life."
Mhm.
I have a friend that did a documentary on my life. I was uber honest, uber open about literally every aspect, and people are like, "Oh my god." And of course, some people are like, "I can't ever talk to you again. I can't ever take you seriously, blah blah blah." And I'm like, "But you know what? That's part of my testimony." It tells you what I went through in life to be the person that I am
Right,
now.
right.
And I am so thankful to God for allowing me to go through all of those trials and all of those tests, because you know what? I feel like I came out the other side in the spiffiest armor that could have ever been made, just for me. 100%.
Yeah, it's customed. It's custom made,
Yes,
and that's
100%.
and that's the thing is like I've often told folks sometimes I feel like the Punisher,
Mhm.
character wise, because
Same, because I
sometimes
don't have a filter. Mhm.
I, I meant semi in the ministry sense, not necessarily in in rough, but more so in the ministry sense is that sometimes like in the field that I do, it
Mhm.
feels like being a one man army.
Right.
And I'm willing to go to war with
Right.
anybody. If you're gonna mock God or you're gonna go after somebody that I love, I'm willing to go full hog and fight you tooth and bone. I don't care how
Same.
many scars come
S
along with this.
Same.
And I'll always have that. I'm a honey badger. It's what I do. I'm very militant.
Mhm.
And some people might not like it. That's why I said it's like a sheepdog. Are you going to appreciate the thing nipping at your heels, or are you going to appreciate that thing before the wolf bites your throat? Because I'll be the first line of defense. They'll say, "Nah, you're not touching one of mine because that's one of the masters. Get out of here." Again,
But see,
not that I save them.
that's what I think people miss, right? About you, about what you do,
Yeah,
because you are so knowledge filled. God has given you so much wisdom and so much knowledge, and the ability to write and speak and do these things. And like I said, we're very different. All Anybody that's in ministry or shares the gospel in any way, shape, or form always has their own specialty, their own things that they talk about, their own things that are like super important to them to be able to verbalize to other
right.
people, right? And so you are like an amazing college professor that, maybe somebody like during the times like, "Oh, I hate taking notes. Grumpy, grumpy." And then when they're done with class, they're like, "Never ever forget a word you said."
I try. I try again. I'm trying to be inspirational because the stuff I talk about, it's dark. I said my home is a library. I live in isolation. I have 4 or 5 friends. So
Mhm.
as you said, does there look like? Yeah, I'm trying to fit in.
Mhm.
Most of my
Right.
life I've been put in a box, quite literally, with the
Same.
homeschooling thing.
Same. Yeah.
Yeah. So now I'm in a format and I get to talk. I get to encourage people I've never even met. And the joy of that is astoundingly fulfilling. I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to do directing. I wanted to write books. With
Mhm.
song and do songs and stuff like that.
God
But
had a different path.
oh yeah, I did. but I was
But
my time,
that's what I love though, because we are so similar. You and I are so, so, so similar, and people always tell me, and I get this all the time, like when people first meet me, I am super intimidating. And I'm
Mhm.
like, me? I'm
That's
like
yeah, I've had
I'm
people
like,
tell me that.
"What the heck am I intimidating for?" I'm like the quirkiest weirdo you could
Yes.
ever wanna meet, that's, like, so calm and drama free, but that's my protection wall, right? That I exude to other people, and they're like, "Oh, like, I was afraid to message you because I didn't think you'd ever message me back because 'cause
Right.
you're very intimidating," and I'm like everybody's grandma. I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
I'm like the fun uncle. What are you kidding?
Exactly. And
No,
not the
no
creepy one, by
dropping
the
stuff.
way.
Huh?
I said, "And not the creepy uncle, by the way."
No, no, no. But I'm the kind of uncle where it's like I'm not gonna tell mom and dad. I'll keep the secret with you.
Right. Same.
I
Yeah.
did it one time. I was babysitting and we were watching an R-rated movie. I was like, we have a whole plan how to pull this out in case they come in.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
But
exactly.
and that's the thing is, I think you and I, or people like ourselves that
Mhm.
understand what we've been refined. We're called to do something. Called to open up a platform to put
Right.
something out there because people
100%.
people are leaving the pulpit and they're going to the podcast. And again, sermon means talk. We are talking. We are getting things
Mhm.
out there. We're processing. Maybe what we said, maybe a line like, "Whoa, that really helps me." Cool. It's relatable. That's what we're
Mhm.
trying to do is again, as I said before, it's like a cooking show.
Mhm.
Here's the ingredients. Now go forth and do something with it. A lot of people don't. And maybe I'm a little bit angry sometimes because I'm like, I put so many ingredients out there and nobody wants to do anything. You want to be an armchair quarterback and tell me how to do it better. And I've already been
Right.
toiling in the vineyard for a couple hours now. And I'm just like, listen, I don't care how late you get in here. Remember when he's talking about somebody getting
Mhm.
pay just as
Right.
equally? I don't care about that. I want you to just jump on in. Even if it's local. If you can't do it local, you can't do it vocally, then get an Aaron, sponsor somebody, send them $2, $5, as opposed
Mhm.
to giving what 10% tithe, which is not biblical. But if you
Well,
want,
and I'm glad you brought that up because this is one of my favorite things to talk about. Think back to the day when Jesus was alive, right?
yeah,
And tithing was a thing. People didn't have sacks of gold, right? So
right,
your tithing is not financially motivated like the church today wants you to believe. Tithing is giving your service, your time, your love, all of those things to someone else. If you have the ability to financially help someone, bless someone,
right,
wonderful. But
right,
that was not the premise for tithing.
right.
Neither is clothing, right? And so talk you said something about clothing earlier and this just popped into my head.
Yeah,
God's like,
yeah,
"Don't forget to mention this." So, most churches nowadays, right, have a dress code. And
yes,
it's like everybody has to wear a fancy dress, or the men have to wear a suit, or you're not supposed to wear flip flops, or whatever. Again, think back to when Jesus was alive. Uh, the only thing they had was sandals, right?
mm,
Open toe sandals, and basically sackcloth, right?
yeah,
Very uh, primitive, simple things. You do not have to be fancy in the presence of God. Even when you speak to God, you do not have to be fancy. A lot of people will say, I don't know how to pray. I don't know what to say to him. Literally start a conversation just like you would your best friend,
yeah,
right? And just spill your giblets. That's what I do at night when I lay down to pray, right? And I have these lists in my head of everybody I need to pray for and all this stuff, and I'm going through it.
mm,
And then my mind will literally wander, and something dumb will pop into my head, like a recipe or something I'm thinking about, or something. And I'll be like, sorry for the interruption. At night, I have brain explosions, which is just like brain diarrhea comes out of my head, and it's like all these interruptions, and then I'll be like, "Excuse me for a minute, Lord, let me get all this out," and then I go right back to praying, and I'm like, "I'm so sorry." Happens every time I pray at night. I don't know
mm,
why. I can pray during the day, and it's completely fine. It's at night when I lay down.
right.
I don't know. I don't know if my body's, like, working from my toes up to my brain and, like, throwing all the garbage out for the day or whatever.
And I think that's what he appreciates and he understands because he's like, yes, you're my little children. It's not,
Exactly.
you're not perfect. You're not like me, but
Oh,
guess
yeah,
what? That's
no.
what I like about you. Your flaws make me chuckle.
Right.
And that's the thing is that even though there's a flaw, but we want to become better. And this again, this is ecclesia, marriage.
Mhm.
I want to submit. I want to choose you,
Right.
right? This is again, that's what I'm always trying to define. Who is Christ? He is the sentient word. He is the only barrier between celestial and flesh through Abraham and all that stuff. He is
Right.
the only mediator that can cross that realm. When he
Mhm.
said, if you abide in me, then I will abide in you. What is that? That is the word. So if you're walking in the word, you are in marriage, you are in covenant, you are in contract.
Right. Absolutely.
This is what again, an ecclesia, bride of Christ. Why are you the bride of Christ? Because you're in the word. The word is you. That is your groom. You again,
Mhm.
Revelation 18:23. The voice of the groom and the bridesmaid was heard no longer in thee. Who is Christ?
Mhm.
John 1:14, word made flesh, and Revelation 19:13, the name of Christ is the word of God. So here's the thing, folks. If you are in Christ, spiritually speaking, the two become one flesh. Spiritually, you are becoming one. It's not about having rifts. It's not about having arguments. It's not about putting up barriers and walls.
Mhm.
Talking with you, getting this stuff out, makes it
Right.
come second nature now. People listen to it. I
Mhm.
encouraged. I had a few message me. It was encouraging. It was edifying. And this is testimony, not what did God do for you this week? Wow, I went to. I'm
Right.
not saying that's bad. What I'm
Mhm.
saying is real testimony. Sit down. I got hours worth
Exactly.
of content here.
How many hours, for how many weeks do you have?
Here,
Let's talk about
order
it.
the pizzas. It's gonna get real.
You know what's funny? Because you mentioned, like, having very few friends and, all of that stuff, and I grew up the exact same way, and I was bullied all the time and picked on. I was so shy and so timid, and I would not have I would get beat up all the time, and I wouldn't do anything or say anything about it, right? Because I was just, like, a scared, shy, whatever. You would never in a million years know that about me now,
Hmm.
right? Because now I'm a pit bull for other people. I'm definitely not shy. I'm not only, doing the medical career, but teaching and public speaking and all of that kinda stuff, and I'm like, "Wow, oh, wow, did he change me?"
Yes. Yes.
And I'm like, "If he wouldn't have done all of those things, I cannot imagine where I would be today."
Yes.
Still living in fear and shy and quiet and scared to stand up for myself, and yeah, I can't imagine the person I would be, or if I would still be here.
That's yeah. Janet, well put.
Mhm,
Ministry is kind of at a certain point. Again, Luke 22:32. Satan desires to sift you like wheat, Peter, but I have prayed for you that when you're ready, strengthen the brethren. Denies him 3 times later on when they're at the beach. Do you
mhm,
love me? Yes, Lord. Feed my sheep. Feed my sheep. There comes a certain point, as you said, we've been bullied. We've been put down so many times that
right,
now it's kind of like, hey, he's one of mine. What do you want?
mhm,
Yeah. You want to go? Why? Because that confidence comes from God. That's what I was telling my buddy. He said,
100%,
I want to go to war right now. Huh? I want to go to war spiritually against the Antichrist.
$100%.
If he dwelt, if he grants the saints, if that's true, if he does, if he grants the saints that power, I'm over here like I'll do it. I'll
Right, you and I are both like, "Rrr."
yeah, well, because I'm angry. I want to fight the evil. I want people, again, don't look at me, it's him, but the power that you see coming through me, I'm angry at what he's angry at. And if I have to take
Mhm,
out a couple of one or two people in the crowd, like an Elisha, you're mocking the bald guy. That had nothing to do with ministry. And you don't hear God reprimanding him, going, "You called out two she-males. That's abusing your power to, kill 42 kids that are mocking you for being bald." You don't hear that.
mhm.
We are done. We're tired. And there comes a certain point we're saying, I'm gonna fight for the little neglected ones. I'm gonna fight for the orphans
100%.
and the widows. I'm gonna fight for the ones that are going through trauma because I get it. And I don't want you looking to me. I want you looking to him because that is where my power and confidence and thrill of life comes from. It's not about me. It is about the message that he has indwelled in me. And that love, that is why I am not afraid to die.
Right,
Whether it comes
same.
from losing my head or getting to go down fighting, I really do not care at this point
You
because
know
it is a joy to do ministry and fight on behalf of his flock. I'm not him, but I'm willing to fight alongside him because he has done so much for me.
but, that is such a beautiful way to put it. Like, my favorite thing in the world is service to others,
Yes.
and if he would not have put me through every trial and tribulation that I went through, I would not be of service to others. I would still be an egotistical, shy, quiet, scared little sheep, and going through, like, my ministry. is not only, like therapeutic wise for people, but I do like local fundraisers. I send food boxes to people, like all of those things. And I know people are going to be like, you shouldn't brag about it, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Here's the reason why I said that, because many times in my life, I had nothing. I had nobody to rely on. It's like, oh, it's your own fault. It's
Right.
whatever. Like, we're not going to help you. Like, figure it out. Blah, 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 blah. So, by going through all of those things, that's where he opened my eyes to, do you want other people to have to suffer like you did, or can you
Right.
do something about it?
Right.
And
Right.
that is where he put me. And so, like, people will be like, oh, it's braggadocious, and you're not supposed to talk about things like that. You're supposed to keep them in secret. No, he brought me through so I could use what I have been through and place it in the aspects of my life that were traumatizing in order to serve other people.
And I
100,000%.
immediately I was hit with this as you just said that. The beggar,
Mhm,
silver and gold have I none, but such as I have I will give.
mhm.
That was in public.
100%.
Again, I'm just saying, it again, it's not about like, "Okay, I gave you so much money." No, it's like, the gift that I have,
Mhm,
now you can start walking. He's walking and leaping and praying. This is what
mhm,
it's about, folks. It's the bare minimum thing, and there's times I've told people I went to New York one time with my buddy Sam, and we passed a couple of bums. I didn't feel anything, but there was one particular homeless vet, had a sign, head was down in the dumps, who are all I know, you know, he actually was the legit deal.
mhm.
And we walked past him, and I thought about him the whole time,
God put it on your mind.
and
Mhm,
I thought about him on the way home, and I'm angry about that to this freaking day, that I did not give something to that
mhm,
particular person. And sometimes that makes me think of the verse in Revelation, sorry, not read in Hebrews, that you might have been entertaining angels unaware. Maybe
mhm.
that was a test that, yeah, this particular one. Were you
And
listening?
that's we get those
Yes.
oftentimes because I have been like, we were literally at a Metallica concert one time, and I went out in the hallway to go to the bathroom, and I kept getting this nudge like, "Go and hug that lady." I don't know this lady. She was a security guard, had no idea, and I'm like, "I don't want to." I'm kinda like Jonah. I was like, mm-mm, nope, not. I don't want to. I'm not gonna go where you tell me to go. I don't wanna do it, whatever. I'm gonna get stabbed. I live in Memphis, and I'm like, this is such a bad idea for so many reasons." Trying to rationalize in my head, and it gets, like, louder and louder and louder. And I went over to this lady and I said, "I am sorry, you do not know me." I'm like, "But, like, the Holy Spirit moved me. He wanted me to come over and give you a hug. Is it okay?" I hugged her. She literally broke down in tears. And she's like, "You have no idea, like, how badly I needed that." And she said she felt like an energy come through me to her, and all of a sudden, she felt better.
Mm.
Okay. So anytime he tells me to do something now, even if I don't, I'm like, I think you're a little cray cray up there. Like, while you're, oof. I mean, that's human nature. Cause like I said, I live in Memphis. I was thinking about my safety and I'm like, I'm not sure it's a good idea to randomly hug people here, but okay. And it's like, anytime I hear that now, like whatever it is, I'm like, okay, like pay for somebody's coffee or talk to somebody at the grocery store or whatever it is. Okay, I got you. I'm gonna do this.
Yes.
I'm gonna do what you say. So for you giving up like everything you had to do ministry, you listened to what he said, and I will tell you why that is a beautiful thing. And this is all throughout the Bible and lots of little stories weaved in through here and there. But when you need your garden weeded,
Mhm.
right? From God, you need the trash taken out, you need to clean everything up. cleansing your life from top to bottom is not a bad thing, that's a good thing
Mm,
because you cannot leave any crabgrass because it's literally gonna spread everywhere,
yeah.
right? So, taking literally everything out of your life, repurposing you, resituating you, whatever you wanna call it, taking away finances, jobs, relationships, etcetera, is because he has a better plan for you, and it may be something we don't understand.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I just had this conversation with somebody the other day, and they're, like, literally lost everything. Kids, wife, house, job, money, cars, all of it, like, everything gone,
Mhm.
gone, period. And it was like, oh, like, how am I supposed to live? Well, like, where am I gonna get food? Whatever. Well, if you have faith, God always provides.
Yeah.
And so wound up in a completely different place with a completely different focus in life. And that's what God has to do sometimes to give us a kick in the pants, right? Is to take down or destroy everything that we have so that we will actually pay attention and do what he says.
Yeah.
Because what was your job before? That's
I
not
was
what he wanted you doing.
yeah. I was a paste extrusion technician. So
Mhm.
basically the tubes that go inside your car, brake lines and all that. And I was again, people don't understand it. Like even now I'm saying like I'm a little bit tight. I'm like, well, what you thought about going back to them? I'm like, I'm not production. I'm not machine. I need to mingle with people. I need to talk with
Same,
people. It, it's
same.
it, it's what God's put in me. Again, this is why I like the theater. This is why I like writing. I think about psychology. I think about people's feelings
Mhm.
all the time. To say that, to
Same.
say you're full
Mhm.
of yourself, I'm like, "No." I think when I think about myself, I'm thinking about, "I could have done this better. I could have done what were they thinking about this thing? How can I make that better?"
That right there, you were thinking about other people. You were serving other people, and they aren't even aware.
That's literally been my mindset is not again, what were they thinking about? How did they think that they like me? No, it's just thinking, "How could I have done that better? I could have said this better."
Mhm,
Um, and again, when I was serving in junior church, there was times I had kids coming up to me, and they're saying, I like talking to you as opposed to the other teachers because you're actually real and all real. I
mhm.
feel like I can talk to you, and it's not, you know, church guy. It's
Right.
like because yeah, I'm one of you. I'll hang out with you guys. I'll talk with you guys because I understand sometimes you can't say something to mom and dad.
Mhm.
Do I use that to
100%, yep.
manipulate? No, I don't use that to manipulate. Like there was one scenario, and I'm just throwing this out there because she's still on my heart to this day, but she was having temptations with going in towards the LGBT community. I
Mhm,
told her what the Bible said, but I also understood, very delicate. I was a young man, I
mhm,
think maybe 20, 19, 20. And I said, "All right, I'll answer as best I can. I'll go over to the pastor and say, hey, maybe you could have your wife talk to her.
mhm.
Again, you don't have to say I said anything, just, maybe hint around the conversation and just, bring it up or bring it up in teen groups." He said, "All right." Never happened. She showed
Right,
up maybe 1 or 2 more weeks, and then she disappeared. And,
right.
of course, the answer is, "Well, they really love God, they, keep coming to church, but you know as it is, they reach a certain age, then they just disappear."
And
No.
that's not it. They're
Right,
not getting their needs
needs. Yes.
addressed, and
Yes.
so that's why ministry like ours and so many other people that are outside of the brick and mortar, church building, right, are important because church is when 2 or more are gathered in his name, and
Yes.
having a discussion about things like that because everybody needs to have their feelings validated in the aspect that they're being heard.
Yes.
And she did not feel like there was anyone there outside of you that she could talk to or that even seemed to act like they could understand or
Well, she's processing.
empathize with what she was feeling, right? And that is why what we do is so important, and especially in what I do, it's emotion based.
Yeah.
It's healing from the emotional side that is my cup of tea, I guess you could say. That's what God has
Okay.
tasked me with, right? It's to be that sounding board for people who don't have literally anyone else in life to talk to, or they don't think anybody else has gone through the same things, has experienced the same stuff, or could possibly even begin to imagine how they're feeling.
Right. Right. And that's all what it's about is
Hmm.
some of us really we're okay with talking. Sometimes again, I'm overwhelmed. I'm incredibly stressed. Sometimes I snap. I'm not perfect. I'll acknowledge
Well,
it.
neither one
But
of us are, but hello, we're being sanctified.
yes, and
Don't
that's the
be
beauty of
judgy.
it. Right. And don't act impulsively on your emotions.
Hmm.
Again, the money God will send somebody or something along.
Hmm.
That much I do have faith on. Somebody, I literally said a prayer, and the next day somebody sent me enough money for rent. I was like, God, thank you. And I messaged the person. I always say, message specifically if I can find them. If it's Cash App, sometimes I can't find them because code name wherever. But I
Hmm.
always make the effort of saying thank you because it genuinely, I'm over here living by prayer and faith. I don't
Right,
know what's going to happen next month, but I
right.
know I have to keep trying to do ministry because if I go to work I won't be able to go back to doing what I love doing. I may not be
And or
perfect.
what God called you to do. And
Right,
so I
right,
want people to hear this loud and clear because I don't work either, right?
right.
I'm retired. So for the people that go, your life would be easier if you would just go get a job, if you would just go back to work.
It's like you don't
When
understand.
you are called to service, you are called to do God's will.
Yeah,
You are not called to do Susie Q, Karen P, whoever out in the internet wild that thinks that you're a bad person because you're not getting a job like they told you to. No, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. That was God's plan that He asked from me.
right, right.
So stop being a Karen, and don't be again. Look at the log in your own eye before you complain about the speck in somebody else's.
Mm,
Just saying.
right. To
Anyway,
add, to add to that, I've seen also a lot of just throwing this out here because while we're on the topic, but a lot of women I've noticed between the ages of 40 to 60, when we're
no,
talking about
that's
something
my
that
age group.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. There's rare gems where I'm like, "Thank you, God," because it feels like I'm fighting with a
Mhm,
Deborah individual. Because I can
mhm,
talk sanely because we're talking about Holy Spirit matters. I can talk
mhm.
maturely with you and accept you, and you know what I'm saying? Because
Right,
I can respect
absolutely.
that. But
Yep.
there's others. Oh, how dare you post a meme about a psyop with the plane or the helicopter? There's families grieving. Banana. It's like this is why you're not supposed to be pastors because you're thinking and responding, and even in your
In an
comment.
emotional response kind of way.
Yes, yes, and that is
Mhm.
not what ministry is supposed to be. Again, you can have compassion. I'm not saying that emotion can't be there,
Right.
but you really have to be careful that you're not led by emotions like Eve, which is one of the first. Why did he go after Eve, not
Mhm.
Adam?
'Cause she was weak.
Right. And again, it's not a flaw, but a man, again, the man is supposed to intervene and
Right.
intercede and stop what is going on. Again, somebody was bringing out when you're reading it, doesn't sound like Adam was the other side of the garden. It sounded like he was over here on. I mean, if like at a carnival, if you had a
Mhm,
little bit, I'll take a. You should grab a rock. You should immediately intervene and call to God, saying, "God,
mhm.
moment here. We need some help, intervention." But no, you didn't
I'm
do it.
glad you said that because, and as a female, a lot of females don't think like me. The man is supposed to be the head of the household. The
Hmm.
man is supposed to be headship, leadership, the whole 9 yards because they're the protector,
Yes.
designated designed protector role. Women are the nurturer, which means we're emotional, which means we're weaker. 100% truth.
Yes.
because that's the way that we were designed. We were designed to have that empathy and those feelings and whatever. Now, has all of that been distorted and blurred over time? Yes. Because what do we do now? If there's a plane crash, what do people do? They immediately pull out their phones and they start videoing instead of being the headship and the leadership and running over and being like, how can I help you? How can I protect you? Let me save you. Let me whatever. It's like, oh, bro, dude, did you see the kicks he was wearing? Kind of stuff. Like, stop that.
Hmm.
Because now that has left you weakened because you are so focused on worldly things that you can't be focused on the kingdom of God or God Himself because you're too worried about what's going on down here and how you
Right.
can serve yourself
Right.
instead of serving other people.
Right. And just to add on to that, I know we already did a whole other episode, but this one really hit me, and I'm probably gonna do a short. But
Well, we can record a second episode if you want. I'm good with that too. I like
sure,
talking to you.
oh, it's the same. But this one really hit me. Is that what's the problem with the world? Is that women are deciding what a man is?
Yes.
What? Hold up. Let's think about this. Before it used to be, again, you watch all these old movies. Oh, you're hanging around with my sister. Oh no, you're gonna hang out with my daughter. What was this? It was the vetting process.
Mhm.
You make sure you're an equal man as I am. I
Mhm.
want to make sure you have standards in your life and you're not
And
going
pure
to
intentions.
right, and that you're going you're going to treat her correctly. Because
Mhm.
I don't know what your plans are right now, but I'm letting you know if your plans are going in one certain direction, we're gonna
Mhm.
have problems. We're gonna talk.
I'm gonna put my size 11 boot up your butt.
Yeah, and it was the man who vetted another man to a standard. It was competitive
Right.
for a reason. Because again, if you're going to be a bum, well, then live in the bumville. Again, for ministers like myself, I'm so poor I can't afford to go on a date. So if you love a man of God, he's going to be broke. But instead, I'm staying in standard of society. If it wasn't ministry, it's a standard of society. It was I'm making sure you are worthy of carrying on the baton of her honor and well-being.
Yes.
Okay, and again, that's not bad. But what is it doing now? The man is supposed to decide what another man is, right?
Mhm.
We have a standard to uphold. Now, we don't really have that, right? Because now
Right.
the woman decides what a man is. A woman is now processing, I don't think you're not a good match for me. Not really interested. That's subconscious
You
feminism,
need
by
to
the way,
cry
folks.
more.
Right. Or you don't really listen to me. I'm gonna fill in all the
You
blanks.
need to dress in a lace onesie.
Oh my gosh. But this is what it's becoming, is that a woman is supposed to make the choice
Right.
after the man has been decided and vetted. And again, this goes into the cold communion thing.
Yep.
Okay, now that I've vetted you, I've approved that if we go through with this, you're going to, we're good. And then I handed over to the daughter and she finished the rest of it. And she chose to accept, cool. She approves of the father's son, the selection that's made here. She could
Mhm.
say no, she could say yes. If she says yes, young man goes back to his father's house to add on to induct the new bride. And he'd come back within a year or two to pick her up. And she'd be waiting for him because she doesn't know when he's going to appear within that year or two span. But it's
Mhm.
being ready for that. Why? Because my father put effort about my well-being and I'm looking forward to starting my new life to become one flesh with
Right.
this person, with the word.
Right.
And I think that's the problem in today's society. The woman, the Jezebel spirit, has dictated. It used to, what was it, was the first wave was to what, equal rights. The second wave was to, you know well, you can go out with other women, sexual revolution, and I think they said the third wave is now I am a man with a trans. And I was going, yes,
Right.
it's
Well, and that pretty much sums it up. And here's the thing. Women are so like there's a bunch of dating shows and stuff on TV right now right? And they do like the influencers, and they go like Love Island is one, right? And
That's right,
so
Bachelor, yeah.
they go, and it's like they'll pick like, to couple up or whatever, but it's like, what do you want in a partner? And it always kills me on these shows because people will say things like, well, he has to be tall. Um, he has to be tan. And he has to have nice teeth. Nothing about morals,
Yes,
values,
yes.
leadership, strength, protective status, nothing like that. It's basically shallow characteristics that they want, and they don't care if the inside of the man is hollow or not, just if it makes them happy because it's aesthetically pleasing.
It's superficial. And they say women don't really go into looks; they're all about emotions. It's like, have you watched the dating shows?
Right, and it's complete opposite.
It's really, yeah,
It's not about anything other than the external stuff, and that is so true to life these
yep,
days, and dating, like, everyone has a type, and you will only date girls that are, uh, little, petite, skinny brunettes.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
you probably just eliminated your soulmate,
Right,
the person that you are going to become one with.
right.
You just eliminated them because of your shallow predispositions.
Hmm. And
Why are people like that?
well, again, people are becoming lovers of themselves. It's my standard. It's what I think is good, as opposed
Mhm.
to like, you know what? I raised you, and I want you to go out with a guy that's what similar like me. Blah blah blah. If you're a good husband, if you're not like an
Right,
alcoholic and you don't beat your wife and all that stuff, what
right.
I'm saying is that there's a standard of conduct that is vetted by another man to make sure that, you know what? I want to make sure that she's going to continue to have a good life, because
Mhm.
why? Women are vessels of life,
Right.
right? God uses that to continue creating children. He uses them to nurture and create homes and not make it how it just a house. Today, it's become so superficial. And like again, again, I posted it in the story. It was not tagged on this particular lady, but it was a guy literally just saying, "Okay, what's an expectation for for a guy? Well, he has to be so tall and stuff like that." He says, "All right, I'm gonna use." He pulls out like one of those things for measuring when you go to a fitter or something like that for a
Uh-huh.
dress or a suit. Says, "I'm gonna measure your waist." Oh no, so suddenly
You
you
can't
want a
have the
guy to be
same
so
set of
tall,
standards.
right? But I can't have a gauge of how wide you are.
Right.
And this is the thing. It's like, yeah, again, petite, but it's like, no, but at the same time, I would prefer you're at least semi-fit before the age kicks in the hormones and stuff like. Why? Because I would like healthy. It's
Mhm.
normal. That's what I'm looking for. But when you're putting everything on a superficial and
Right.
like this is all I care about the looks. I care about how much money he makes. Oh, there's something off. No,
100%. That
you're
right there. Yep.
you're not talking to the person. Um, if I may, I'd like to veer into this because I'm excited.
Mhm.
I went
Mhm.
to an event in Georgia. It was I can't remember. It was it wasn't Turning Point USA. It was one of the things. Anyways, I went there and there was this young lady. I think she was about 17 or something like that. Again, I don't think in age, I was enjoying the conversation that we had at the table. She
Right.
was enjoying the conversation. And we started hitting it off, stuff like that. And eventually we started walking up towards the stage after the whole event and stuff like that. And something was coming up behind her. And I just gently reached over my hand and I touched her shoulder just to pull her out of the way because she was blocking it.
Mhm.
She didn't bat an eye. She didn't get scared. She was confident that,
That you
that
were
me
going to be a
reaching o she
protector.
didn't know what was behind her, but she just accepted it because she was comfortable
Mhm.
with what again, leading.
Right.
We had again, good intentions. We're in a room. There's nothing again. I know some people are gonna jump the gun like, "Oh, yeah, you hang out with somebody young." No, that's not what I think. What I'm thinking is, I'm enjoying the moment. I'm
Right.
enjoying being able to lead in this conversation. I'm enjoying that you're enjoying the moment.
Mhm.
This is what it's supposed to be a
You're
man.
fellowshipping.
Well, there's fellowshipping, and yes, I was attracted to her, but I'm also thinking to myself, yeah, I think you'd be worth waiting a year or two.
Mhm.
Did you hear what I said? It's not dating as an intercourse, which a lot of people automatically, again, you're perverted because your
Right.
society has gotten you thinking like this.
Because
I'm thinking
something's wrong
courtship.
with your subconscious if that's the first thing you thought about. Just saying. Okay.
Right. And that's what I'm always saying. I'm like, immediately you picture us in a bedroom setting and you're thinking about age gap. No.
Mhm.
Well, again, what do women want? I want him to like me for me. Okay, you're 17. Now I'm thinking in my head, would you be worth the wait?
Mhm.
Right? Pure intentions. But I'm enjoying your personality in the
Right.
moment. This is something we don't talk about. And there's another guy. Um, he's still single, by the way, probably because of his own cynicism. But we were sitting in college, and he looked over and was like, "Oh, look, such and so seniors hanging out with the incoming freshman, creepy." And I'm like, I didn't say anything, but I'm thinking to myself, dude, that's like 3.5 years. Maybe he waited a year or two before he went in, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
Still 4 or 5 years, tops. And who cares? That's none of your business. And if she's here for an MRS degree on a side note, or she's just enjoying a nice, charming young man who's leading her around campus because he knows where he's going,
Mhm.
then big whoop, not your jurisdiction. And if they happen
Right.
to find love here, cool. But this is the thing. People are putting labels, they're putting
100%. Yep.
all these expectations that are very superficial and trivial, but it doesn't have anything to do with relationship. And I think that's what's missing in our society.
100%.
People they don't want again, this is why you're falling away from the word, because you don't want a relationship, you don't want a submission to anything, you don't want to sacrifice anything. And
Mhm.
again, sacrifice, okay, I have to wait a year or two. Is that worth it? Yeah, because guess what? Proverbs 31. I found a good woman that was worth that.
Mhm. Well, and here's the thing, like what I prayed for, because I had a series of just uber horrible
Uh,
relationships. And I was so frustrated. And I'm like, God, like, I just want you to bring me the person that you meant for me.
yes. Yes.
Like, I don't have any I'm not one of those people that's like, "Oh, he has to have brown hair and green eyes," and I don't care about any of that, right? I just said, "Bring me the person that you made for me,
Right.
that you intend to be my partner in life." And lo and behold, when I did that, he appeared. And it has been the biggest blessing on the planet because we are completely similar.
Hmm.
We enjoy spending time together. We don't have separate man cave, woman cave stuff. Like, whole house is our cave, right?
Right, right,
And
right.
it's like we're such a perfect match because we're able to share the word of God together
Right.
and grow together and mature together and be sanctified together on the same level.
Right.
That is what people should strive for. People should not be striving for XYZ size, money, bank account, whatever. You should literally be praying that God gives you your match instead of praying for superficial stuff or not praying at all. You know, that's a problem.
That's yeah, well, that's the thing. I was telling somebody. I said I've been praying for. I think I was about 13 when I started praying. I'd like to have again. These qualities are there. Cool. Blah 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 blah.
Mhm.
And it's been kind of a thing where it's like, you know what, God, we're getting kind of close to the end of the book here. I'm not going to live as long as Abraham. He had
We're
a
in
couple.
we're in Revelations. Can you
Yeah,
please
I'm
give me
like,
something?
it's coming. It's running a little late. And that's what I'm saying. I'm saying so either equip the two witnesses to do their thing now, or you know, I would like a helpmate at the same time. What do you want to know? You honestly will not get to know me
Mhm.
until marriage. That's the thing, because again, as you said, you look conceited. Do you really know me though? And again, I'm not saying to just throw everything on the table. What I'm saying is you maybe need 2 or 3 months tops to get to know
Right.
somebody. As you said, you met your husband online.
Mhm. Mhm.
I think people are so reserved and they're scared to put themselves out there. Whereas I'm over here
100%.
like, okay, you left me on scene, bye. Because again, it's once in a while I'll have somebody message me or something like that. I'm like, all right, or I'll message them because I'm willing to just say, hey, you know what? Let's go on a date.
Mhm.
I'm okay. Let's. But everybody puts up, well, I'm not interested. I'm a single mom. Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, we got Magites, liberals, then we have all this stuff. And I'm over here like, listen, sometimes even if you feel like it's not a good time for me or I'm not really interested, try it.
Mhm.
Why? Just to have fun. It's a date and it's digital. Odds are we
Right.
won't have to pay for anything. And
Right.
you're just enjoying a conversation.
Right.
Again, as opposed to
Absolutely.
the other person I said, I was on there for like 4 hours. But we're enjoying a conversation of getting
Mhm.
to know each other. And if we can't even enjoy a conversation and we lose track of time, then we probably, but you vet it, you try it.
Mhm.
And if we're in Revelation, guys, just bite the bullet. At this point, if the ecclesia, everybody's saying I'm finding the real ones now, blah blah blah. The ones, the ones that are following me, the ones that are putting ha-has, I block them, blah, blah, blah. Why? Because God is activating his saints to gravitate to each other and not to be reserved in little boxes and buildings all over the country or across
Yep.
nations. He is
100%.
activating them to come together so that we know what we're looking for. So, again, in a Christian marriage sense, you probably should be able to tell right now which is yes, which is no, which is wheat, which is tares. And I'm
Mhm.
really getting tired of the society of indecisiveness. Just throwing that out there.
Right, and I think that's a problem, and that's a huge problem, and it's a good point because people are so weak-minded
Yeah.
lately, and that is why people can't make decisions.
Hmm.
Even something as simple as I don't know what to wear, I can't make up my mind what I'm gonna put on, or deciding where to eat or whatever. It's small things like you can't make the simplest of decisions, then you certainly are not going to have the discernment of the Holy Spirit to be able to get through daily life
Right.
without distraction.
And I think that's also the thing is, again, man initiates, woman reciprocates.
Mhm,
If you're not
100%.
reciprocating or you're taking forever to reply or you're leaving somebody unseen or you're doing others, it's like, I ain't got time for that. I'm doing ministry. I burn the candle on both ends. And this
Mhm,
is the thing is that I think people are lollygagging. And I'm not
mm,
sure if they're not aware where we are in the streams of time, but it's kind of like ding 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 because I hear the train whistle. I know
mhm.
it's going to be here within the next 5 minutes, and everybody else is still playing games, and I'm over here like, God, I know you feel that way with sleeping bridesmaids right now.
Mhm.
I'm over here saying, as a man, I'm ready to bite the bullet. I'm ready to carry on that responsibility, despite how short it's going to come. Probably will never have a chance to father children. I'm okay with that. But would you like to hang out with me during the, the tribulation and just have
Mhm.
somebody to talk to when things are getting a little bit cray cray?
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. And I'm like, we don't have time to play games. If you're looking for serious, then get on board because the train's about to take off here.
Well, and I'm not a fan of playing games either because a lot of women are like, well, I gotta keep him on his toes, so I gotta keep telling him, or playing like that I'm not that interested in him, or I'm gonna flirt with somebody else to make him jealous or
Right.
whatever. Stop that.
Yeah.
There's no need for that. Just stop it. And with men, the same thing. Like a- all of that BS aside, you could have the most beautiful, brilliant relationship on the planet if you drop all the external stuff that
Yeah.
comes along with it.
Yeah.
Be vulnerable, share things with your partner. There is literally nothing my husband doesn't know about me and vice versa. But when you're that comfortable, and
Trust me, I'll tell you. Yeah.
you become one person, that person's not ever gonna betray your vulnerability,
Mhm.
ever. Now, there are some people that will because they're narcissistic, ego driven,
Right.
whatever. But if they do, so what? That just means that's going to strengthen you even more. If they blast your secret to somebody on social media or whatever. Okay, great. Your secret's out there now, but guess what? That's part of your testimony and it's no longer hidden.
Mhm.
So that will make you a stronger person.
Yeah. I think that's the thing is everybody for me, I'm over here like, "Yeah, I got dirt. Go ahead."
I know. That's what I always said too. I'm like, I'll expose myself before anyone else exposes me. And I'm proud to do so, right? Badge of honor for me because you know, God made me and designed my life the way he did
Mm.
to make me who I am. So I don't care. Did I do some embarrassing stuff? Of course I did. But
Mhm.
you know what? If I wouldn't have sinned, I wouldn't be where I am today and being redeemed.
Right.
So,
And it kinda makes it 10 times better,
mhm,
and that's the thing is that people don't seem to realize is that when you're living in sin, you're living the way you're supposed to because you don't know what
100%.
what the difference is. If you do know, well, again, it's kinda almost doubled because it's like, well,
Right.
you know, it's like, yeah, at this point, it's like, yeah, I could blackmail myself.
Mhm. I know, right?
And it's like,
Janet, please send me a check for $1,000,000 or I'm going to release your personal information. Signed, me.
"I myself." Yeah, he's schizophrenic, this guy's a little bit yeah, that's it's like, guys, and I think that's honestly what it's coming down to. Like, I kind of like the concept of speed dating.
Mhm,
Like, I could probably find out in 4 or 5 questions. Like, okay, do you know about again? Maybe it's conspiracy, something in history, something blah blah. Blah. And off of that, I'd probably be able to be like, "Huh, I think this
mhm,
is something. If you don't know it, I'm gonna be like, next. I'm very simple, and I think people are overcomplicating it. It's like that's almost the beauty of getting married is not understanding all the little intricacies or all the little why. Because again, when you listen to women, well, yeah, then he did this silly little thing, and apparently this is all about when he was a kid, and his mom was telling me about it. Why? It's sentimental because you're getting to know somebody and you're melding together. It's getting to know
100%.
somebody. Oh, my wife doing all this crazy stuff, blah, blah, blah. But don't you love that little aspect about her that it drives you a little crazy? But guess what? That's part of her. Yeah,
And, we
the
talk
beauty
about
of it.
that all the time because people focus so much on the negative, right? In
Yeah,
relationships, and it's like, that's what drives a wedge between people because it's like, "Oh my god, if he leaves the toilet seat up one more time. Oh my god, if she turns the
that.
toilet paper the wrong way one more time," whatever, like, "He left his shoes out. She did this." And it's like, all of these things that in the grand scheme of things don't matter
Right,
because
right,
as a human being and you see the toilet seat up, is it that much out of your day to put it down?
right,
If the toilet paper is facing the wrong way and you don't like it that way, do you not have hands to change it the way you like it? Somebody didn't load the dishwasher right. You should be thank you for doing the dishwasher. Granted, you make a huge mess on the floor when you empty it, but thank you for doing it.
right, right,
Have that grace in life towards your partner, towards your relationships, instead of focusing on the judgment of somebody else. You
right,
should be focusing on being thankful that they are willing to help you and be of service to you
right.
by doing things. Hey, great, you put the toilet paper roll on. Because some people don't, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
You get a sticker today, a gold star. But you know what I'm saying? Because it becomes so, like, overcomplicated, and then that builds up that resentment and, like, almost, I wanna say, hatred that some people have toward their partners, right? Instead of remembering why they got together and remembering the beautiful things about them, they become so weakened emotionally that they allow Satan to come into their relationship and be like, "Oh my god, today, like, these 40 things they did, they were all wrong. You should say something." And then it becomes like a hateful thing because 'cause you're
Right.
only picking on someone instead of being like, "You know what? Thank you. I really appreciate you taking the trash. I appreciate you helping with the laundry. I appreciate all these things." Like, and people forget words of affirmation for people.
Yeah.
Like, that means nothing, like, relationships are so revolving door these days that people really don't know what a long-term relationship is supposed to be because they forget about, "You are so smart. Oh my gosh, you look so fantastic today." Like, "I like your butt." Whatever it is, you know what I'm saying?
Right,
Say
right.
something nice, say something positive, but people forget that too. That's a problem.
It is a problem, and that's again going back to where we all started. It's like that's why I let you know all the stuff that's going on. That's why I
Mhm,
invited you in
mhm.
because I don't let everybody know the real fun me. But when I
Right?
do,
Not
I'm
everybody can be as awesome as I am, thank you very much.
Aw.
Duh.
But that's just the irony of the whole thing. It's like intimacy into me see and that's honestly what it's when it comes down to. It doesn't even necessarily be in a marriage sense. It's literally just saying, you know what,
On a
I'm gonna start.
human being level.
Yeah, I'm gonna be real, I'm gonna be
Mhm,
raw, and I'm gonna like, "Here, take down the walls, help me build it back together, and you're gonna be part of the wall."
mhm,
Oh, okay. Right? Because you're saying why? Because you're fortifying it, you're becoming stronger together, and
mhm.
spiritually speaking, that's what we're supposed to do as the ecclesia. I don't like rifts, I don't like revenge, I don't like petty arguments, especially if we're this close to Revelation, for crying out loud, folks. I don't have time. Like, I already know I'm gonna say this. There's gonna be a few people who are gonna be like, "Oh, look, Janet's doing 666, so she's gonna be nominated. She's been in the occult, and Brandon's talking to a freaking Mason woman."
Mhm.
You know, this is the pettiness that we're
Right.
dealing with in
And
society.
you know what? I love that you said that though, because that's exactly comparable to what I just said in relationships. This was the best conversation, right? And we
Yeah,
covered so much of God's message. However, somebody will literally pick out something and be like, "Oh my god, she said but.
right.
Oh my god, she said diarrhea," or whatever, and that will be the sole focus,
That they take
and
away.
the rest of the message goes in one ear and out the other
I've seen those comments. Or again, one of
all
them's
the
four and a
time.
half hour long video, and it has two dislikes. And I'm thinking to myself, either one, you don't like me, which is fine, or two, you literally listened to 4.5 hours worth of
Mhm,
content. Like again, I would like to give you the benefit of the doubt that you actually listened to the whole thing and didn't stop within 20 minutes or whatever.
mhm,
That you actually listened to 4.5 hours and you just disagreed. And you didn't bother to leave a comment of what you disagreed with.
mhm.
This is the thing. We're living in an age of cowardice. I'm just gonna
Right,
digitally, disapprove that, disapprove that.
right.
Or even when we're reacting to comments and stuff like that on Facebook, ha ha, angry face, oh, no. There's no middle ground. It's you're the enemy. I'm smarter than you. Ha
Mhm.
ha.
Right.
It's a sick and
It
corrosive culture that we're living in.
it
But this is
shuts
now what
down room for communication and
yeah,
just basic humanity and
right.
basic, like, eh, intimacy, adulting, like, all of that stuff. You should be able to have a conversation with someone even if, and this is going back to the beginning, even if there's different belief systems.
Right.
This person teaches this. I believe this. Okay, that's a means for discussion. That's
Right.
not a means for
Division,
jealousy, hatred,
derision.
anger, any of that stuff.
Right.
Because each one of us should be able to find common ground with somebody else, regardless of what it is.
Especially if they're in the body of Christ. If they are in the body of Christ. And if you're
That's
irked
a
over
big
that
if.
if that one particular person irked you this much that you're withholding
Mhm,
financial
mhm.
support,
Or support
and
in general,
or
emotionally.
or
Yeah.
friendship, right?
Mhm.
It's like it was that bad that you revoke friendship, cut off all communication, cut off all funding, and
But
for what?
But that may have been one of the weeds in your garden that God needed to remove for
Uh,
you to be able to move forward because people like that can have the tendency to have toxic behavior, which will spoil the rest of the soil. So when you're trying to plant seeds, that becomes a toxic field and nothing will grow.
It's a
So,
tear choking, and that again, I think I think that goes back to similar with my mom, is that alcohol. I am
mhm,
seeing somebody hurt, they're in quicksand.
mhm,
I am walking by.
mhm,
I'm offering my hand in extension. They're saying, "No, no, I'll take the next one."
mhm,
The hardest thing in the world is watching somebody literally hurting themselves or in dire straits.
mhm,
And as a Christian, to just walk away from that or somebody that you love, that's one of the hardest things in the world to do. But you, unfortunately, she actually told me about a vision where she saw me walking and people were sitting in their little cardboard boxes. They were homeless or, they're in shadows and stuff like that. And as I was walking by, my shadow was making them start, crawling and getting up and starting to do things. That was her vision about me. And she said,
mhm,
"You didn't look back. You didn't look at anything. You just kept going straight. Focus on the mission," is basically what she was getting from God.
mhm,
Don't look back. Just keep going. People will follow as they come. And I'm thinking to
mhm.
myself, "Whew." But again, I appreciate that aspect because I don't have visions. I don't have dreams like some people are having. I'm over here like, you guys are all lucky. But this is
Some
what
sometimes, and then sometimes it's like, oh, like I like to say downloads,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And it's because some people say like he's talking, so they're thinking like verbally speaking or whatever, but it's like literally putting things in my head. And sometimes it is so much information that I'm like, do I need to like get a pen and paper? Because this is like a lot at once. And I'm like afraid I'm going to mess something. I feel like I'm in class trying to take notes. So sometimes it's great, and sometimes it's like, can you put it on pause for a second? So I can,
Yeah.
like,
I'm thinking about
do
John after Revelation. He's just everyone like, "Hey,
it.
John, you okay there? Huh? Ah, give
Mhm.
me a pen. I need some papyrus."
I
You ain't gonna
like that
believe the things
though,
that I
and
saw.
I like that you brought that up because other people can see, especially if they're believers, they could see things that we don't see,
Yeah.
or feel things that maybe we don't feel or something like that. And that's why I said earlier, like the effect that you have on other people, it is bigger than what you can see. It's bigger than what we can possibly fathom, because the words that you speak, you're being filled with the Holy Spirit, whether it's emotions, whether it's words, whatever. And then you lay that out, it touches somebody, that somebody tells someone else, and it goes down the line,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So be happy for the person that you are, the personality that you have, the traits that you have, the gifts that you were given, because you are absolutely blessed and you were put to do what you're supposed to do and what you are doing.
Mm, I
So,
appreciate that.
you know. Anyway, we better stop or I will
Yeah.
literally talk to you until midnight, and then people will have like a 20-hour show to listen to. So, yeah,
Go
some
for a
people
record.
will. Some people would be really tired,
Is there a
but
world
yeah.
record for how long a show's gone for a podcast?
I think the longest one I ever did was like, it was on somebody else's show and it was like 4.5 hours.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, my bladder's literally the size of a peanut and I'm going to die. If I wait any longer, you're literally going to see an explosion, and it's not a water balloon. If you get me. Yeah. Just saying. Yes, I may have peed my pants a time or two. So that's another part of my testimony. And if anybody has problems with that, please send your complaints to the Janet Complaint Department. She will make sure to respond in kind. Anyway,
Please do.
sorry I had to throw that sarcasm in there.
So good.
Anyways, I love you dearly. I'm so glad we had this conversation. I could literally do a show with you all the time because I love it. It gets deep and I like that.
Yeah.
Where can people find you, darling?
In America. Okay.
At my
uh,
house.
Spotify, Rumble, YouTube, and Patreon. If you can support, always appreciate it. Just lost 2 supporters, so every dime counts. You can customize if you can. But yeah, Spotify, you'll help me if you can look me up. I go higher up in the charts. Apparently, that's what Heidi was telling me. So if you can look it up, even if you don't follow, it still helps me out. And yeah, then Krollology, KROLLology, lower underscore 101. For Instagram, if you can find me. Usually, I'm not able to be found if someone tries to type it in. So
That is true.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So
So, for
thanks
people
for
who
everything.
are just listening and not watching, what is the name of your podcast?
Oh, right. Manna Daily Podcast. I forgot that part. Very important. Um, but Manna with 2 N's. Yeah, and it's easy to find me. Oh, and I'm doing merch. So if you can buy merch from Quotes or something like that and start wearing that around and get a bath mat or a nice little mug like the thing I have here, the Bible
So,
doesn't care about your feelings.
where do they find that at?
Printify. I think it's just manna.com with Printify, or you can find it. I think I have MDP merch in my store on my saved stories. So if you just click that, I have links in there. And probably again, Patreon will have stuff in there. I always share links and sometimes photos of people who've bought stuff.
Fabulous.
Yeah, and supporting
All
the
right.
ministry. I never want to turn it into a den of thieves. It's literally just, hey, throw it to the Paul's Tent Maker Fund, and we're reaching people internationally. So trying my
Mhm.
best, and you guys are fueling the fire until we're called to go. If they do online censorship by 27, I'm just trying to keep going until we go to heaven. That's pretty much where we're at.
Well, I was just gonna say that, until we're called to go, so if they shut down, the internet, if there's censorship, you can find me on a street corner somewhere, not doing bad things, but by preaching. How about that?
I
Yeah.
love it. I love it.
So, for me and for the lovely Brandon, I appreciate you coming back. We appreciate the listeners. Make sure you go check out his show, leave comments that are pleasant because we can all deserve a nice comment here and there. And go check out the show on Rumble or Patreon. And we will see you guys later. Have an amazing day.